We're going to create 2 new sites, but in order to understand where they should go, we're going to consult our hierarchy, our design, our topology that shows us how the land and hotel sites are created in relationship to each other. We have a top-level site that is a site collection, Land and Hotel International. Within Land and Hotel International, then, we have child sites, one for each region. These aren't all the regions we have. This is a few as an example. So we're seeing a part of our topology. For example, there's a site for land in North America, a site for land in Europe, and a site for land in Latin America. And because of the way our permissions are designed, most of our users would imagine that those regional sites are really their top-level site. They rarely will see or really have knowledge of the Land and Hotel International site. Within the regional sites, then, we have hotel subsites. In North America, we have a number of hotels, including San Francisco and New York City. In Europe, London, West End, and Paris. In Latin America, Chetumal and Ciudad de Mexico, or Mexico City. Now, this is one way to arrange a topology for sites, and this is driven by geography. That works for Landon because they have presidents for each of the regions. They have staffs for each of the regions. This isn't the only way to create a topology. In some organizations, rather than having the breakdown under the top level being regions, it might be functional areas of the business. Instead of North America, Europe, and Latin America, we might have sales, manufacturing, accounting and finance, and so on. The decision about how your site is primarily organized has to be made before you begin creating lots of sites, or you really end up with something that's far messier than it should be. Remembering that what we want to create are containers of meaning. We have been working thus far in the hotel subsite for the Landon Hotel in San Francisco. We also have access to the Landon Hotel intranet, which is the North American intranet. Even though we haven't spent any time there, we will now. And we have a topology that extends down to other sites that would be created that are more functional. For example, we have an events team and a facilities team in San Francisco. They would each like their own subsite. In New York, they want a site for their hotel. They don't have one yet. And then their promotions team and their renovation group both want to have subsites. We could simply say, well, then you probably want one for facilities and events too, because San Francisco wants those. But it's never a good idea to create sites unless you have people who are actually going to use them. It's easier to have SharePoint enjoy wide adoption through an enterprise if people are hungry for what they can get from SharePoint and if they understand what it will do for them. So I'm a fan of only creating sites for groups that really are engaged enough to begin using them, not to simply say everybody needs a facility site, so we'll give you one. The 2 sites that we are going to create are the San Francisco Events Team site and the Team Landon New York City site, so that we can best understand how to create new sites within SharePoint. When you are going to create a new site, begin in the parent site, the site that your new site will be a subsite within. The site that we want to create under Team Landon SF is the San Francisco Events Team site. Let's go to Site Contents. We've been here before, and you might have already guessed exactly what we're going to do. We're going to create a new subsite. Notice that we have the opportunity to enter a URL, so we can really enter a title here, which would be SF Events Team. And this is a team site for members of the events planning team at SF Bernal Heights, Landon. Cool. What do we want to call this? Well, we already have BH for Bernal Heights. That's actually our San Francisco site. So we could say that we want this to be SF Events. We could say that we want this to be Events SF or simply Events. I like having team in its name too, because events might be something we were creating as a calendar, for example. So I'm going to say Event Team. That'll work. Now I need to choose a language. We have a lot to choose from. And you might wonder why that's useful. Well, if we were creating the sites for Latin America, it would actually be very nice to be able to choose languages that were useful for our sites. We now choose a template. We have some Duet Enterprise sites, we have enterprise sites, and we have collaboration sites. What we want is simply a team site. When we create it, we either need to immediately jump in and create permissions or simply use same permission as parent sites, or use the same permissions as the parent site, at least initially. We can always change permissions later, but right now while I'm creating this, I know I have permission to create it. I have permission to do anything else I need to do in here. I don't have a real need to modify the permissions yet, so I will leave the same permissions as the parent site. The next two questions are important, and your organization should have a standard that helps you answer these two questions. If you're the SharePoint administrator and you're just starting out, cool, you can set the standard yourself. But you would like to have the same navigational standards throughout your entire site collection if at all possible, because it makes it easier for your users to use the site. The first question is, if I go to the parent site, which in this case is the Team Landon SF site that we've been using, should subsites be on the quick launch? Yes or no? The default is no, and I actually prefer that. And the reason is that if we think of the quick launch as items within this site, it could be that subsites would be included, but it also makes sense that we could exclude them to say they're not within the site, they're a part below the site. And if we don't display it on the quick launch, then the question is, if I go to Team Landon SF, will I see this site, the new site we're creating for the events team, on the top link bar? And the default here is yes. In other words, SharePoint is set up that when we create new lists and libraries, we're offered the opportunity to put them on the quick launch. When we create new subsites, we are, by default, putting them on our top link bar, our top nav. The second question is, are we inheriting any navigation? If we are, do we want to use the top link bar from the parent site? Now, the top link bar from the parent site will be the Team Landon SF bar. And if I choose yes, then I'm going to get that link bar, and I'm also displaying this site on the top link bar of the parent site. So it will be in both places. Notice that the default is no. I'm going to leave all of the defaults for right now. We can modify this later when we look at navigation, but it's important to notice what the offer here is. And if your organization says that subsites are always displayed on the quick launch, you would fix that here because you know that's the standard. Let's click Create to create this new site for the San Francisco events team. Just that quick, here we are. Took no time at all. Now, let's go create the site for the hotel in New York City and Manhattan. First, we have to figure out how we're going to get there. And we have not spent really any time at all in our top-level Landon Hotel intranet site. But we visited there twice. And once when we were there, I followed it. So it is on our sites list, Landon Hotel intranet. Right here. You may or may not remember it. Notice that Team Landon SF, that link is part of the top nav. On the left-hand side, we have items that are within the Landon Hotel intranet, but without including the subsites. Now in this top-level site, we're going to create Team Landon NYC the same way we have Team Landon SF. Site contents, new subsite, Team Landon NYC, and we would enter a description for this. Now remember that the name of the hotel, the abbreviation for the hotel, is all we're using as the website address. The San Francisco Bernal Heights Hotel is BH, and we actually have a list of all of these. The Team Landon New York City hotel is actually NYC. That's its name. And so when things are being addressed internally, that's the internal code for the New York City Landon Hotel. I'm going to create a team site in English using the same permissions as the parent site. Do I display this on the quick launch? No. Do I display it on the top link bar of the parent site? Yes. Am I going to use the top link bar from the parent site? No. And we're going to keep all of these same choices. Now, it's possible that at the regional sub-site level, we have one type of navigation we inherit perhaps from the parent. And then when we're looking at the actual hotel sites, we have a different pattern for navigation, and that's what our standard is. We don't have to have exactly the same navigation through the site, but we want to have consistent navigation within a level of sites that are peers. Let's click Create, and we will have a new site momentarily. It's pretty amazing how quick this is. Just like that, Team Landon, New York City. Looks good, huh? The next tasks that we would have would be to further customize our site so that it was going to meet our needs, whether we're looking at Team Landon, New York City, or we're looking at the events team that is working in San Francisco. Applying a theme comes first, and I'll see you in the next movie.